I'll call the meeting to order of the General Government and Finance Committee at 6 p.m. This meeting has been given public notice in accordance with Section 19.83 and 19.84 Wisconsin statutes in such form that will apprise the general public and news media of subject matter that is intended for consideration and action. Roll call. All members are present except for Trustee Pieper, who is excused. Move on to citizen input. Please come up to the podium and fill out one of the yellow slips and hand it into the clerk. If you want to come up, please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Is there anyone who wishes to come forward?
Used to handing it to that person, whoever is sitting there. Melanie Smythe, N140W17938 Cedar Lane. Couple of things. While we were doing the 2050 plan, the director of planning made note of the comments that I had contributed as part of the planning process and something that should be in the comprehensive plan. And one of those things was an evaluation of how well or not so well all of the TIDs had fared and the effect of them on the village, on taxpayers, on revenue, on whatever. And that was not included in the final version. So I was actually quite happy to see the presentation at the previous meeting, I think it was Village Board, where Administrator Krecklow was talking about the effects of the taxpayer and cited the MacIver article. And I have submitted a request for the calculations because while he showed the calculations that the school board had presented to him, there was just a statement about the effect of the taxes. So I would appreciate having those calculations presented to me. And I still have 3 minutes, great. So look at that. Another thing is that I was interested to see the supplemental audit document that came out this year, which I thought was incredibly helpful in addition to the actual annual report for the financial statements. I don't recall that being presented in previous years, but the lady from Baker Tilly said that it they have been submitted. And I would suggest that maybe those past ones should also be posted on the website along with the other annual reports, just as a matter of keeping all the records straight. And then I know we're going to get a presentation from Christian tonight about the EDWC. And I would strongly suggest that the EDWC take a survey of the feedback and the effects of their work with our Economic Development Committee. We had a meeting, there was a meeting last week, and there were some not happy people at the results of what the efforts were. And some people even felt like it wasn't use of the credits. So just so you know that, and perhaps a little follow-up should be done. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Anyone else for public comment?
He's raising the mic. Scott Effley, W159 and 10514 Old Farm Road, Germantown. More comments tonight. First of all, while I appreciate the list of ledgers, the county ledgers and check runs that are submitted out there, I brought up before, it's not financial reporting. It's numbers and maybe a little variance, but it's not real financial reporting. And I know I've asked this before, what is really needed is a summary report that tells trustees, the public, anyone that wants to know, an easy way of looking through information. The public's not looking through 90 pages of check runs, okay? So what's going good, what's going bad, what's going okay, or whatever, anything like that. Just a short little thing. And a case in point for me is page 208 out of, I think there's 259 pages, I don't know. Summarizes the numbers for the water utility. Of course, I'm interested in that being a utility advisory. Lots of there's a lot of negative numbers, there's fund transfers, it's confusing. I have a finance degree and a background in economics, and I can't understand where we're at with these things. So it would be helpful to me to have a summary report saying, are we doing good, bad? I think the village board would like to know that too, or this committee. So tonight we're talking about, wellheads, I guess. Mine utility advisory. Public Works look at this. I know they're codes, but I mean, this does affect utilities. I said on the Utility Advisory Commission, maybe this should be run by them. Now we're just looking at codes and saying, whatever, we need to change it for whatever reason. We have these committees for reasons. We can run things by them. They're just advisory. I mean, why not use the advice is my feeling. So more input needed there potentially. I know EDWC is doing a presentation on, I guess, their services or value proposition. I mean, whatever it is. I was a little disappointed there was no agenda information attached, and maybe they'll have a PowerPoint or whatever, but I feel like that should be attached if you're going to present PowerPoints or whatever, or could have been presented last week at our Economic Development Commission. I mean, they're the ones that did the strategic planning. EDWC did strategic planning for our commission. Why aren't we getting input or hearing anything there? It's okay that it's here, but I would like a copy of the information, whatever's presented tonight, as I sit on that commission. So last comment is, we're going to have a discussion on shortening village board meetings. Completely worthwhile. I'm sure all of you would agree with that, if we can. But in our current structure, we got an issue. We stack meetings, which allows for a little more time for the trustees to think strategically about the important things they are voting on. Committee meetings of the standing committee should never be directly before a village board meeting for action. That doesn't make any sense. And they didn't always do that. And Rick, you might know that. Terry, you might know that, but they didn't always do that. Committee meetings, they should meet before a week before any village board meeting. The items for discussion should be put out there with a summary from the committee chair as to what happened in the meeting. Why do I say that? Because too often the village board is acting as a working board where you're rehashing things, taking a lot of time to do it. And ideally, you guys are a policy board. I know the 4 trustees are here, but the village board is a policy board. You make decisions based on policy. So if there's a summary, that's written by the committee chair, this is what we covered, this is what happened, present that to the other members of your trustees. I think it would go a long way to shortening the meetings and getting you guys home earlier. Thank you.
Thank you. Next one for public comment.
Sarah Larson, Butternut Road. I want to comment on the agenda item of shortening the village board meetings. And in observing the last village board meeting, as well as listening to the audio from the Economic Development Committee, I think that would be very instructive for the entire board to just listen to the audio from those meetings and then take it from a citizen perspective of what kind of impression it leaves. To the audience, it kind of is a little almost like a Jerry Springer episode at times. And I think that isn't the image that the board would want to convey. What's lacking is leadership, and leadership in terms of the board president, leadership from committee chairs, leadership from our village administrator. At the Economic Development Commission, the chair said, we haven't had a meeting because there hasn't been anything to talk about. The committee is where the work gets done. And so they spent a lot of time, like 30 minutes of that was kind of just a BS blame game of why a meeting didn't take place, when really that chair should say, okay, at this meeting, we're going to talk about what are properties that we would want to develop. What are the guidelines that we would want to use? What is our main goal? If they feel a big topic was there was no purpose or direction, well, then you have a meeting to talk about what purpose and direction is, to then have that first building block and move on from there. I think what might be helpful for the board and probably the community as a whole is to hold like a board retreat day and come to some sort of consensus amongst the board as to what acceptable behavior is, defining process and information flow, because the other thing from the village board meeting on the length of meetings was clearly trustees didn't know what body was going to address that and take it on. And in my opinion, I don't necessarily think it should be on your plate. That should be a conversation of the whole board as to what kind of change that can be. And I think if you hold a board retreat, then you can also maybe work on relationships amongst the board, because the divide amongst members and the open disdain for one another, I think that contributes to the length of meetings as well, as people are trying to get their jabs in their feedback. I also think what it delays things is lack of accountability. You folks are the board. You need to be holding our village employees accountable. And so when information is needed, you set a deadline and you say you're going to meet that deadline. That's a manager's job, and you guys are the managers. We have a village administrator, but you're his manager. So I think understanding what those roles and guidelines are and firming that up might help you with the direction and shortening your meetings. Thanks.
Thanks for your comments. Anyone else for public comment? All right, if not, we will move on to item 4, consent agenda. Item A, minutes from July 15th, 2024.
Move approval of the minutes?
I'll second.
All right, we have motion to approve the minutes of July 15th. Any discussion?
I just want to make a note here. It seems that we're, when we have some kind of a discussion, I understand that some of these items don't require any kind of, it's just a presentation. But if there is a conversation, a discussion, I think there should be at least like a couple of sentences about it. I think this is really concise, but it's just listing the item and then basically the vote.
I would agree with that.
It
Because-
has no
yeah.
content. And if somebody wants to find out what the heck we're doing or what we did, or even as a reminder for us, we need a little 2-3 sentence paragraph. This was discussed, that was discussed, and this was the motion and the result. And I'd appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Unfinished business, item A, ARPA update.
In your packet is an update of the projects related to the ARPA fund. You'll notice that the 2 outstanding projects, splash pad maintenance and the purchase of handguns, is on the village board agenda tonight. If those 2 items are passed by the village board, we'll have about $19,000 remaining of unallocated ARPA funds. And we have until the end of the year to allocate those funds to a project.
Till the end of the year. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Couple
Yes,
questions.
trustee Miller.
Thank you. I know you have the last column as committed, but can you indicate which ones are actually complete? Like, we started with an allocation, right?
Yep. Yep. So any project, I would ignore the original allocation.
Right. I know that.
Any project that has committed and has $0 is completed. There's no longer any committed funds tied to that project. So that
So-
project has been completed.
So does that move over to the 2024 actual then?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so here's an example. Miller Communication Safety toward the end, it says in the 2024, $35,942 and committed $10,903.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So that original project was $45,000. There's still $10,000 tied to that project. What I plan on doing is following up with them. I believe that $10,000 has not been spent. So that would be, uncommitted to that project and sent back into the remaining funds bucket. But I just want to confirm that we've made all the payments to them that we agreed to.
Yeah, that's what
Mhm.
that's critical on any of these committed.
Yep.
did we pay the entire amount? And are they really complete?
Right.
Okay. Yeah, if you could explain that next month, that'd be
Yep.
great. Thanks.
All right, anything else? Great, thanks. We'll move on to new business. Item A, presentation by Economic Development, Washington County. And we have Christian Cheshlock here from EDWC to present.
Got it.
There we go.
Okay, we're here. And can you hear me? Excellent. All right, first of all, thank you. I was asked to come today to share with you a little bit more about what EDWC has been up to, what we do, and how you might be able to deploy and utilize your subscription credits that you have with our organization. Really, the focus here, as we have put together a PowerPoint, is pivoting away from what you see from us when we come and present. It's very project focused, it's deal structuring focused. And there's a lot more that we do here in the village of Germantown and across Washington County. So I want to give you that broader perspective. To really understand that, first of all, we have this little video here that is just a couple minutes long that talks about what our organization and organizations like us do for Washington County and its communities. And we're not getting any sound. Sure what we should be doing on the AV side to adjust for that.
Is the volume on the YouTube app up?
It is, yep.
Mhm.
And I've got volume on mine set in the middle as well, but it looks like it's pumping through
Yeah.
some
they were-
speakers in your system.
Brenton.
Exit, exit from the program. Either that or I can, so much really. Sure. Well, I can wing it without the clips then, if that's what we have to do, fortunately. Yeah, for some reason it wasn't playing through mine audio, but let me see if I try it here. Oh,
Great. If you've ever noticed a new business opening in the neighborhood and felt
but no, we're not seeing audio or video, are you? You're not seeing my screen though.
You only have one. Only audio or video, not both.
All right, well, I can play the audio here and that'll give you a sense. It's people talking, so.
I'm a little
Thank you
proud
for
of
your
your
help.
community. That's economic development. That's economic.
Sorry, I'm gonna press the volume here.
If you've ever noticed a new business opening in the neighborhood and felt a little proud of your community, that's economic development. That's economic development.
That's economic development.
If you've ever thought about retraining or upgrading your skills at a local college,
That's economic development.
If you've ever had to look for a new job and felt confident that you won't need to move,
That's economic development. I want to let you in on a little secret. Economic development is at the heart of every great community because a strong economy doesn't just mean more jobs. It means more opportunities, more choices, more resiliency for everyone. So developing our economy really means developing our communities, and dynamic, thriving communities don't happen by chance. It takes the efforts of skilled experts on the front lines working hard every day to make our community a little better. That's what we do.
we are your economic development professionals. From local to national, our common objective is a stronger, more resilient, more inclusive economy. From new businesses to old industries, small towns to big cities, we understand what it takes to build a vibrant community, helping it grow stronger, where everyone has an opportunity to thrive.
how do we do it? Easy. With education and expertise, we collaborate to attract new businesses and work hard to champion for the ones we have, maybe even help them grow.
We can help navigate funding options, financing programs, and investment opportunities, and connect you with the right government resources. We know technology. We understand workforce development. We are experts in partnerships, mentorships, and apprenticeships. We can work with councils to develop better strategies. We can work with schools to develop new training opportunities. We can work with community leaders to identify current gaps. And we love research. We can provide information on everything from local trends to international export regulations to implementing new technology to industrial cluster developments. Yes, we know what that is.
We do 1,000 different things, customized to the unique needs of our community, based on mountains of research and training and best practices. Because developing our economy is a science, and it is an art. This is how successful communities invest in the future.
In sustainability, in opportunity, in resiliency, in ourselves.
Which means creating a better place to live with purpose.
So that is, we've got two more video clips later in the presentation. I'm going to try to get the presentation to go that are custom to Washington County. That is the International Economic Development Council's essentially video for helping local communities understand the different ways that we engage. And as I mentioned earlier, a lot of when you see us is specific to a single project and deal structuring, but there's a lot more going on. As it relates here to Washington County, if I can just back up on the visual here so everybody can see. Really not sure what's going on with this connection. I'm so sorry. There we go. So one of the unique aspects of, sorry, I guess I can't move. One of the unique aspects of EDWC is really the genesis. And the genesis was a public-private partnership that forged between our municipalities here in Washington County and the private sector. So the history with Germantown goes as far back as you can see here is 2005, when Germantown and all with the exception of, I believe, Newburgh at that time, got together and said, you know, it's getting very competitive. We're kind of competing for the same scraps. We can do more together than we can independently. And that's really what forged the initial development of EDWC as a public-private partnership. Since then, it has continued to evolve. It's continued to become increasingly more vested with more tools and resources, more professionalism. It kind of started off as a little bit of all things to all people, and now we're really focused in on generating local impact. In fact, with this next slide, you'll recognize it because we practice what we preach. Your Economic Development Commission developed with some of last year's credits a strategic platform for that commission that was then reviewed by the village board and approved. This is EDWC's strategic platform. And you can see that our principal focus is really prosperity countywide, and we do it through looking to deepen the impact that we create, and I'll share some information about that impact, and really be that top-notch economic development consulting practice that's recognized statewide. And I'm excited to be able to say that's exactly the case. Washington County was not necessarily known for its economic development capabilities, and these days we're leading the way in helping to teach other communities and counties how to do the work that we do with some of the innovative initiatives that we have underway. These are the different buckets of activity that we engage in. And you as a community can take advantage of any and all of those buckets as part of the services that we offer. Again, it doesn't just have to be deal structuring. It can be working with your Economic Development Commission to execute the strategic platform that they collaboratively created. We do all of these buckets a little bit differently, however, in that we focus on 4 areas of fuel that you can see there. And there's not rocket science here. It's really about the funding, and we'll share with you some impact information on that, particularly as it relates to Germantown. It's also about the consulting work that we do. You've been a benefactor on some of that, as well as the data analytics.
Christian, can you stay by the mic, please?
So sorry. I move around a lot and a little bit hyper. In any event, those are the different ways that we focus our execution is through those types of fuel and resource. The last one is workforce, and this has historically been the toughest nut to crack. How can you really engage in workforce retention and attraction to build? And we know, and you've probably heard your constituents talk about, that's one of the single greatest issues is really bringing in the workforce that we need and having a sufficient workforce for all the growth that's occurring. Historically, many organizations, some of our peers do that through marketing. We've got a different approach that we'll share with you later that's generating some real results. To that point, what about the impact? When we created our strategic platform, there were various benchmarks that we put forward. One of the benchmarks on the bottom is one that virtually none of our peers take the time and investment and effort to measure. And that's the net public benefit. That's the fiscal benefit that is coming back to Washington County and our local communities. We measure it. You've seen it in our impact reports. We show you what some of the economic benefits are that are coming for deal by deal, project by project, opportunity by opportunity. Some of the other impacts are not a surprise. They're things that you would expect that an organization like ours would measure. I've got another video here that I'm going to go out of the presentation so you can hear it. This is about our impact loan fund. So we talked about those 4 items of fuel. One of the pieces of fuel is capital, and this is one of the ways that we get it done. And this is hearing from some of our own customers and borrowers. So let's see if we can get the audio to play here since it's one or the other.
The time came to
Almost there. Okay. Sorry for these technical difficulties.
the time came to figure out where this business was going to be. I had 2 small children and really wanted to bring them back here to grow up surrounded by family and friends and this community.
Prosperity in our community is not created by government. It's created by the people who live here and the businesses. It's prosperous families that make this community great. And we want you to be part of that.
So the planning started almost a decade ago, and we really were worried that we weren't going to be able to build the building we really wanted to. We were going to have to start cutting corners or scaling back. And that's where the revolving loan fund really came in, was, hey, there's this opportunity to do this the way we really want to, and to not cut any of those corners, and to deliver a building that this community really deserved.
One of the strengths of Washington County is the fact that they have a unified strategy around economic development. And that includes really focusing on the existing businesses that are present in the county and capitalizing on their growth potential. The revolving loan fund really targets any business in Washington County that has high growth potential. Every year, for several years, they have been investing a portion of the sales tax to help fuel these growth companies so that they can create jobs, they can make the investments that they need to make in their buildings and in equipment, and that's putting more money in people's pockets, which is generating more sales tax. Now it's starting to generate its own ability, because as loans get paid, that money goes back into the portfolio to be able to loan out to the next business that's looking to grow.
So WeldFab's a contract metal manufacturer. We cut, bend, and weld steel for various customers. WeldFab has been around since the 1990s. The Hahn family, husband and wife, owned it 32 years. They wanted to move on, and they were looking for a new owner to continue the legacy and carry the torch forward. We were able to use the revolving loan fund to acquire the assets of the business. We took over last January. Since then, we've invested over $2 million in new equipment. We've hired almost 30 new full-time employees. You know, it's really important to us to stay in Washington County and support everything that the county's done for us.
There are a few different ways that we look at the return. One is new investment into our overall economy, such as a new building creates new property taxes. We've had over 400 million worth of new investments since the inception of the program that has been cultivated here in Washington County. Another way that you can measure success for something like this is we obviously want to put money in people's pockets. And we have put over $800 million worth of new wages into our area economy. Those are multiples of thousands of prosperous lives and families that have new opportunities as a result of investment in this program.
HDI Wholesale is our family company. We are a wholesale distributor, and our primary customers are charity nonprofit organizations. We were in a 30,000 square foot warehouse we were renting, and we needed more than twice that space. Jim Blyce from Design to Construct referred us to EDWC, which was really essential in allowing us to build the building of our dreams for our business. The EDWC portion of our funding package came in right at the beginning, and so we were able to close on the land quickly, which was the first step. It's an impressive looking building. It really gives us credibility in going after large new national charities that are looking at us as their resource for getting what they need. So our business plan really did expand, and we've gone full force into it, and it's paid off.
It's not about the numbers, it's about the people that are here and making new opportunities in their own communities.
Aspen Sky is a winery, a distillery, and an event center wrapped up in one building here in Slinger. We're kind of tucked back at the end of an industrial park to really give us an amazing backyard area as well. I love that I got to come back to my hometown, to be surrounded by my family and the community I grew up in, and pursue this dream that I'd had for a decade before.
We hear from customer after customer that this program has been a game changer for what they want to accomplish, allowing them to do more, do better, and exceed their own expectations. Okay, let's go back to the presentation here. Sorry, it's resetting the start every time I hook up. Okay, so this here is a map of the locations and the volume of impact RLF funds that we've been investing since the beginning of the program back in 2005, which is when we took it over. And you can see here that Germantown has been a large benefactor of the investment in the funds. Some of our largest deal flow tends to happen in this area. both in terms of volume and the dollar amount and the size of the deals that we participate in. You can see that West Bend is another major player, and then there's a smattering of projects throughout the county, including some of our other villages. But it's exciting to see the engagement in Germantown from the business community in the way that they've been able to leverage the resources to grow their business. In the earlier slide, I showed several of the buckets of activity from existing businesses to startups. The startup was a lightly colored bucket, and that's because we don't typically engage in startups. It's a high risk, lower return proposition. If you've got scarce resources, it's not the first place you're going to put it. But for qualified startups, we do. One of those qualified startups, Old Germantown, which you, I would undoubtedly would be familiar. I can remember sitting on the kitchen table and on their farm as they were rolling out the different plans before there was even a thought of how this business could progress, and the principals retired from their current jobs, and now it's one of the more successful enterprises here in Germantown that's really giving its name not just across the region, but literally across the state. So exciting that they're a participant and have been a benefactor in that program. Another, sorry, it's not showing different things on your screen than mine here.
Hey, Christian, just for time's sake here, we're a little crunched on time. I'd like to give you about 5 more minutes if you can
Sure.
fit it in that way.
I apologize. I'm cycling through the slides here and they're not changing on the screen. So one of the other major initiatives that we've undertaken, and I'll wrap up with some of the different ways that our communities have used the subscription program, has been Heart & Homestead. And when I talked about earlier workforce, and it's difficult to engage in workforce development types of activities, this is an example of one that is literally creating results. It is an initiative where there's a $20,000 available for down payment assistance for the purchase and acquisition of a new home in Washington County. And that payment is made upfront at the time that they need it at close, and then they earn it through contributing time, talents, and treasure into the local community. It's been enormously successful. We hit our target for the year within 3 months, and 35% of the applicants are individuals or families that are currently outside of Washington County looking to come into the county. So that represents a significant positive impact on the workforce opportunities that we can offer our business community. I have several slides regarding which I will, per the earlier feedback, we will get out and put into PDF form so that they can be distributed to you as a committee in the village board that reference the subscription program. You are in our middle tier of credits. It's called our leader tier with 60 credits. And really how the different communities have used the subscription program has been as different as each of our communities across Washington County. In the village of Jackson, I'll put them on the spot. They've deployed nearly all the credits over the last 2 years to securing our assistance as their representative and marketing commercial property that they have in land that they own as part of one of their TIF districts. And it is now developing with its first end user, which is a lender that is coming onto that site. And their resources went from everything from building the business plan for that development all the way to the marketing to the direct negotiations. You've seen some of our impact reports, so you know what some of our analytics look like, but we also have various business analysis and workforce tools. So we can tell you and tell the businesses in Germantown how competitive their wages are and how they might make their benefits package more competitive compared to their peers in Washington County and the surrounding region. One of our communities, another village, uses the credits to offer that service to the business community. And so their village is branded on the reports and the services that we offer their business through the use of the credits. So that's another innovative way that the community has used the credits. Other communities have used the credits to try to, when we didn't have a tool or a resource, to help develop a tool or resource to meet the need. Another village did not have the resources to put into infrastructure for a business park project that they wanted to undertake. And so we partnered with Washington County to create a new segment of that loan portfolio that I had mentioned to offer incentive or low interest financing to the municipality to support some of that infrastructure. The Village of Germantown last year used a portion of your credits for a couple of business attraction projects, but also the Economic Development Commission used those credits for a participatory process that engaged multiple sessions to create your strategic platform, as well as essentially a focused strategy for execution. We stand ready to deploy as that commission or this village board would see fit. One last piece to respect the time limit that you just offered me, and again, I apologize that so much of it got used by the technology, is the fact that we have been reviewing the subscription program, which is kind of a new way of delivering services where you get to drive how those services are delivered. We reviewed the last 2 years worth of data, and one of the points of feedback was some communities had underutilized credits. Others were concerned that they would go over with their credits, and so we're holding back until the end of the year when there was a mad rush to use the credits. So to avoid that challenge, we have given essentially a rollover. We've created a rollover opportunity where there is a discount on a pro rata basis for any unused credits in 1 year applied to the next year. In Germantown's case last year, you were 211% above the credits that you had been allocated or had purchased. Because again, it was a new program, and also you had some previous credits from the previous year that you hadn't used. We didn't. We just kept on going to finish the projects that you had underway. So be happy to address any questions should you have those, or come back at a different time when we can get the technology to do what we want it to do. But appreciate your time that you've offered today.
Yeah, I apologize for being a little short here. For everyone's information, this meeting was supposed to start at 5:30 and it got published incorrectly. So we had to start at 6 p.m. So we're a little tight on time. So I apologize for that. But we would like to have you back with some additional information.
I'll turn this into a PDF and get it out to you.
Questions, that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You bet. Thank you.
Great, thank you. All right, we'll move on to item B, policy on employee reimbursement for CDL training. Who's taking this one? Aaron? I'm trying to get to it. There we go. I'm here.
Sorry, I'm here. Okay. So we have this CDL policy in front of you. This is in essence to pay for CDL training for new hires with a 3-year contract that they'll stay with us for 3 years. Kind of similar to, I mean, our police contract doesn't have that, but kind of training similar to a police contract where they come in and they get trained for the position that they're going to be obtaining. So currently, you know, there have been CDL regulations that have been changing regarding their education requirements. And so in the past, we have done part of the training on site where we're not allowed to do that anymore. So now they have to get fully trained off site. And so with that, there has been difficulties hiring CDL drivers. And this is one way that we hope to get more applicants in the door.
Aaron, the current cost of a CDL training is, did I hear about 5,000 right now in the?
Give or take, yes.
Okay. Right. Trustee Jan Miller?
How long is this training process?
I believe it's 3 months. I know Matt's here, so any of the CDL questions, Matt can definitely answer those.
The time of the training,
You turned it off.
the opposite. Okay, there we go. I should know by now. The duration of the training kind of depends on which school you go to. There's a number of different private schools. But I would say it's in the range of 6 to 8 weeks that it takes somebody to go through the classroom component and the behind the wheel driving component as well.
Oh, is this required for all the drivers? Like regardless of whether it's a pickup truck, plow, or whatever?
It's required for plow trucks in particular and a couple other pieces of equipment that that the village operates.
Okay.
Yep, the bigger equipment essentially.
Take it away.
Trustee Kaminsky.
Can you tell us again, Matt, we mentioned this briefly at the Public Works meeting last week, but we know what the expense is, and how would we make sure that these people stay on board, and for what period of time do we expect them to stay in employment at Germantown to make up for what we're giving them? And what happens if they leave early? And how do we assure that we can get some of that money back?
That's part of that, actually. There's a payback system.
Yeah, so it's set up for 3 years, where they're where the longer they stay, the less they owe back, and then at that point, 3 years out, they're free to go, but they would have been working for us for those 3 years anyway.
I think it's a good idea. I mean, I have no problem with this at all. I just think it's important for us we're looking at all the documentation, but people listening to this don't even know what we're talking about. That's why I like to bring that kind of out in the open.
All right, Trustee Jan Miller.
Matt, have you, in your other world or your past world, have you used this system? I mean, to get better trained people?
Well, it's a relatively new thing, and I know like my previous employer was looking at a similar policy, and there are a number of other municipal and county agencies that are doing this sort of thing.
Okay.
So it's becoming a more common approach, especially for municipal CDL drivers. If you want to become an over-the-road trucker and get your CDL, you can make a pretty good salary off of that and pay back your $5,000 pretty quickly. But for a municipal plow driver, as an example, the payback is, it's a bigger upfront cost, and your salary doesn't match like what those over-the-road truckers are getting. So it's kind of a mismatch, and that's why we're having trouble recruiting, I think.
And so this program, we're paying the upfront cost?
We're paying for it, and
then if they back out, then it's this scale.
if they back out, then it's that sliding scale down to 3 years out where they owe nothing.
What do you think is going to be the economic impact of this entire program?
It's all dependent on our turnover. Are you talking about just the financial impact of the cost of the program over a year or 2 years?
Yeah, let's say we have 20 trucks, I don't know, whatever they are, however many we have, and we have to get everybody up to speed. So it would be.
Well, there's a number of people. I mean, the majority of our staff have commercial driver's licenses.
Okay.
So
that's good.
They don't have to go through this program.
Okay.
Mainly new, isn't it?
This is for new employees.
Okay.
And we would still ask for applicants that have commercial driver's license and attempt to hire those.
Right.
But we've seen an increasing number of instances in recent recruitments where we have some really good qualified candidates for certain facets of the job, but they don't have the commercial driver's license. And that's what this would address. So, I would guess that, this would be anywhere between 1 in 5 people a year. It really just depends on our turnover.
Sure. Okay, thank you.
The staff recommendation is to proceed with the development and implementation of a CDL training policy, and I need a motion for that effect.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I'll make a motion to proceed with the development and implementation of a CDL training program.
Second.
We have a motion on the table to develop and implement the CDL training policy. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item C, proposal for reformatting of the village website. This is Aaron, is that right?
Yes, thank you so much. So the website committee has been getting together to discuss the changes in 2025 for our website. We've had many great discussions to try to make this website more user-friendly, that residents will be able to find the information that they need. Please take in mind when you're reviewing this document that this isn't exactly what it's going to look like, because there's some color differences that are going to be changing. And as you see down here, it says Sterling Heights. That's obviously not going to say Sterling Heights when it's for our municipality. But we looked at a bunch of other websites from different municipalities and all came up with ideas of what we think would make the best website. And this is what we proposed to our website team, and then our website team came back and we put this together with the help of some of our website members. So as you can see, there are some similarities, but there are some differences. I don't know if anybody wants me to go through some of these or has any questions on what it looks like, but as you can see, there are a lot of things on here that are similar, but it's just laid out differently and more user-friendly.
That's a refresh. It looks a little more up to date. And your committee is, how often do you meet or what's the cycle for that?
So we've had 2 really great sessions where we've met for like an hour and a half to almost 2 hours.
Right.
And we've had really great conversations, and then we proposed it to the website team for Civic Plus. And they went over and asked questions and incited even more discussion. And after all of that took place, then they gave us this proposal that we now have to, if we're okay with where they're headed, then we have to sign off on it, and then they're going to put it all together, and we're going to get to see it live and go through it and then make changes from there if need be. So
That's perfect. That's what the subcommittee's for, is to do all this. This is really informational, but is there any comments or anything about the website?
So this is where we're at right now, is looking at
That's right.
the green I like the green.
Yeah.
That's kind of rural, and I think it looks fine. It's gonna be more important to me how functional it is, and when I click on something,
Right.
it goes,
And this is for the public and for staff. We're trying to have everything, if you wanted to look up trash and recycling, one button, just one button, you'll find it. And clean it up and make it easy for staff as well.
Frequently asked questions.
Yes.
On one.
Right. So.
Good. Anything else?
nope, that's it.
We
Great,
just
thank you.
wanted,
Yes, it's starting to come together. It looks good.
right. Thank
All right, we'll move on to item D, discussion on RFPs for professional services, and Administrator Kreklo is here to discuss that.
Thank you. And first, let me apologize for the confusion on the meeting start time. The standard in the system is for the meeting to start at 6 o'clock. The last few months, we've been meeting at 5:30. And honestly, I just missed it when I reviewed the agenda when it went out on Friday, and I should have caught that. So I apologize for that problem here tonight. And I would also note, this is an item that I think some of the members of the committee wanted to talk about in more detail. Which professional services we might want to go through and issue RFPs for going forward. And I think it's a good conversation, given the time. This is not something I don't see as time sensitive. If you'd like to delay this, hold this over until next month, as far as I'm concerned, I don't think there'd be any issues with that.
It's a good recommendation.
I'll make a motion to move this item D to next month's.
All right, a motion to postpone item D until the next meeting. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right.
We're on,
Click too many buttons.
shortening the village board meetings.
This doesn't shorten it at all. No. Item E, shortening village board meetings.
It's an oxymoron.
With that, I guess, let me see. Who wants to start this conversation?
I'll just say
Well,
yes. We
Yeah,
got short.
But,
So okay, I guess I'll preface it. So with that, there was discussion at the village board meeting on 8/5. I wasn't at the meeting, but I did watch the YouTube video on the meeting itself. So I have the background that was discussed there. There are some recommendations that are in the packet. Trustee Hudson is the one who, and Trustee Pieper are the ones who brought this up at the village board meeting, and Trustee Hudson is here too if you want to make any comments on this. There were several discussions around many different things, and I think this again is just up for discussion and how we can better run meetings. Terry, you ready?
Well, I'll just make a comment, probably because I've been on the board longer than everybody here, and board meetings used to function much more smoothly. If you went back about 8 or 9 years ago, and part of that process was everybody did their homework before they came in, which is, obviously, I think most people do that here. If they had specific questions about something, they either, before that meeting, contacted somebody on village staff to get that answer, or they contacted the committee chairperson of that committee where it was originally discussed. And so we didn't keep pulling everything off the consent agenda and rehashing everything. You have to trust that if you have a standing committee with 4 village board members on it, that they are doing their job. And the idea is to trust that judgment of those people and not go back with your shovel and just dig and dig and dig with all kinds of questions. So that's one thing. Consent agenda should be, for the most part, consent agenda. Second, early on, when I moved from the Plan Commission onto the village board, we had a process in place. It was called the 2-bite rule, which really meant that you had to do your homework before you got here. You had to know what questions you were going to ask. You had to know what problem you might have with something on the agenda. And you had to really be able to present your thoughts concisely. And I really love that because under rare circumstances, the village president at that time would say, you had your 2 bites, but okay, I'll give you 1 more minute. And it was so controlled in such a good way. And there was no friction from any of that. And we managed to get through village board meetings, except for the garbage can and recycling bins. That one went to midnight. But for the most part, we managed to get through meetings between 7 and at the latest about 10 o'clock. But usually about 2 hours, if it was an average meeting, to 2.5 hours. And it functioned and it worked perfectly well. And I would like to see us get back to something like that. Because I will say, I think some of these meetings are interminably long. And I think there are several village board members I have heard from, and I'll raise my hand for it, that we were getting very frustrated by it. And it does not need to be that way. And so I hope, that's my 2 cents. I was on vacation during the last board meeting, so I didn't have a chance to say this, but I totally support anything we can do to, let's rein this in a little bit and still do a good job for the village.
Trustee Jan Miller.
I take this very seriously as well. We all have places to go, people to meet. Most of the board members have full-time jobs, and even if you're retired, sometimes you have a full-time job. So I put together 11 items. Phil put out about 5 items, and we need to have more information on each agenda item. Case in point, we had a presentation, there was nothing attached to the submittal form, which I believe is called Business of Village Board Summary. And it's a form that needs to be completed. And there is a synopsis, and it's submitted by a person. And it could be the administrator, the president, a trustee, it doesn't matter. But whoever presents the item should be at the meeting, I feel, and should be able to give a summary of what they want to talk about and have background, have an attachment. Tonight we had a pseudo presentation, that's what I'll call it, from one of our suppliers, EDWC, and nothing was attached. We had audiovisual problems. If we would have had it in our packet, we could have followed along, and it could have been a 10-minute thing. And I think overall, we just need to get back to Robert's Rules of Order and have somebody manage it, such as a sergeant of arms. Having meetings scheduled back to back is hard, and especially when you have 2 standing committees. I mean, we really wanted to start at 5:30, but it didn't happen, and there was a glitch in that. So it shouldn't be back-to-back standing committees. I really don't believe. So I'm open to changing dates. I think we should have someone that's designated as Sergeant of Arms to oversee the Robert's Rules of Order. You got to do the Robert's Rules of Order. And we just need to be mindful. And the other, one of the other challenges I and several other people have is our agenda packet for tonight was given to us by email at 4 something on Friday afternoon. So we are taking our weekend to go through, how many pages was it, Matt? 300 something, 286 maybe. It's a lot to go through. And if we want to be prepared, we should be looking at all these numbers. It's important. So there are other items. It's been presented, and I think that one of the things that we can do is agree that there need to be steps. And if we can make this meeting begin at 5:30, if we're not changing the date right now, let's make that standard. Thank you.
Trustee Hudson, you want to come up?
Please.
I'm going to do
I was going to ask, I would like to hear.
Do I have to introduce myself and give my address, or am I okay?
No.
Thanks, Melanie.
You do not.
But
You are here in an official capacity.
Beyond the 5 suggestions that I've already put forth, I want to put forth one additional suggestion. That's to downsize the village board. A lot of these are discussions of 9 individuals. And they take so long because 9 individuals means 9 different opinions, 9 different sets of questions. If we have a smaller village board, the discussion is less, the meetings are shorter. And then, of course, the other thing that we have is we're saving money for our taxpayers if we downsize the board.
I can address that. That was brought up to GGF about 1.5 years ago and was shot down so fast that there was no conversation just about.
So
most village boards or most municipal boards in Wisconsin are 6 trustees and a president or a head or a mayor. We're one of 4 that have 8 trustees in the entire state.
Okay. So maybe it's time that we relook at that idea again.
We could.
And then the other thing I just want to say is, if we keep doing what we've been doing, the results are going to be exactly the same as to what we've gotten so far. Thank you, and I appreciate the consideration of this idea.
Yeah, there's been, I'll just put in my 2 cents since I wasn't here at the village board meeting either. So it comes down pretty easy for me. Number one, be prepared for the meetings. Read the documentation in that. Administrator Krecklow, as we've discussed, getting the agendas out earlier. Well, that didn't happen 2 weeks later because there was some extenuating circumstances there. But the goal is to get it out by Thursday prior to. That will help. Any questions beforehand, like Terry said, you can ask staff prior to the meeting. Ask the committee chairs or ask the village president, whatever it takes. And if it's not for the general use of the board and it's just for your own information, that's what should be done. Honestly, I'm not looking for any more nights here. I'm actually looking for less nights at the village hall. But, you know, I have a job to do here as well. It's manageable to stack meetings. I've done it for many years, never been an issue until now. So if we can get these under control and in a timely manner, I think we can do it. Robert's Rules has been discussed. There's many things that we don't do as far as Robert's Rules goes. As an example, no discussion. If you want to do strict Robert's Rules, no discussion should happen until you have a motion on the table. We never do that. Right? We have all the discussion beforehand and then we do the motion. That's a strict Robert's Rule. Second Robert's Rule that I thought, and this is something that everybody should research that's on the board. Read Robert's Rules. There is tons of YouTubes out there that you can watch and lots of information, including the Wisconsin League of Municipalities has pages of things about Robert's Rules. But the other one is that you have one discussion point and you can't come back for a second discussion if you want to until the rest of the board has their say. All right? So there is no back and forth and this and that. And when you have the floor, everybody is quiet. That's another one. If we adhere to those rules, I think we would speed things up quite a bit. Is there any other discussion? I know this is going to be a longer discussion and continuous, but we wanted to get it out for now. I don't think we're going to come up with any recommendations tonight, but it's all conceptual right now, and we'll get feedback from the rest of the board as well.
Would we be able to get the time to 5:30 then for this board?
We will get the time to 5:30. Like I said, it was a snafu this week. It should have been 5:30. So I apologize for that.
I'm just gonna be on the next GGF meeting then, so we can take some action on this, because I just don't want to go on like this.
No, we can do that.
Let's do that. And as far as the 5:30 is concerned, I'm fine with that. In Public Works, I have is 5:30 because usually we have a pretty broad agenda. Sometimes here, our agenda is short, and I think I'm fine with our chairperson saying there's 2 things on the agenda. We can meet at 6. Otherwise, we're sitting here for 45 minutes waiting for the village board meeting to begin. You know, I think it works that way. So I'm going to leave that up to Rick.
But we were doing it the opposite, setting it at 6 and then kind of
Yeah.
running out of time. So it's
Sometimes.
flexible.
Yeah.
But if we could make the standardization to 5:30 and then shorten it.
Look into that. I don't know if we have to do anything besides say it's going to be 5:30, but.
Well, we do now.
Okay, and yeah, we'll put this on the next meeting with some feedback from everyone, and then let's get some suggestions out there.
Right.
Great, thanks for the input, appreciate it. We'll go on to reports. Again, for this one here, we have gone down that rabbit hole of looking at individual line items and things like that. I would like to just say, let's look at the reports that are here. If you do have questions, Matthew, can answer those via email or a conversation with you. And if it needs to come back to the committee, it needs to come back, and we'll bring it up on the next one. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Accounts payable, we have a lot of them. So we get those every month. It's all the checks that have gone out and the ACHs that have gone out in the month.
Is there any way to shorten that instead of having 50 pages?
Well, not really. It's a detailed report of all
Yeah,
the.
if you combine it into
all the
one
things that were
PDF, it would
paid.
just be one really long PDF instead of a bunch of medium-long PDFs. It's just a list of every check we cut between meetings.
For us to see if we want, I like that.
But it does get consolidated then in the next report, which is the year-to-date budget report. As it gets classified. Item C, payroll, same type of thing. It's just all the payroll that was out there. It's just a standard report for us. Employee turnover report, that one has been updated slightly. That does show the turnover for each one, and actually has names identified now as the turnovers.
I had a couple of questions, but I'll email them to you. Because there were, what was it, not, 9 operator.
Which report?
Board
Q1 or?
the employee turnover. It
Yeah.
says there's a board president and then 9 trustees. Right? Is that,
Yeah, I believe I know.
I mean,
what
we're
kind
all
of one it is.
trustees, right? But
Yeah.
it's kind of a duplication.
No, there should be one, I believe there should be one terminated. Trustee Nyrather should be moved to terminated. So that's why you see.
It was in Q1, it wasn't in Q2 though. And
Yeah,
it says that
so
in
it
Q2
still
it's-
had him as
It's underneath,
terminated,
but
and that's
it-
why there was 9.
Oh,
Because it had him on yeah, it had him and his replacement on there.
it was a minus. Nice guy.
So there was one turnover.
Okay. Yep. Okay. All right, I'll email you.
Okay, thanks. And the last one is the contracts. This is getting better every month.
Right.
Yes, we keep adding.
This- The Excel's better.
It's long.
I'll send comments if I have them.
All right, thank you. If there's nothing else, we'll schedule the next meeting, and the next meeting would be the third Monday in September, which would be the 16th, if that's okay. Actually, yeah, that's okay with me. On the following. So, okay, we'll plan it on the 16th at 5:30. And with that, we will adjourn the meeting at 7:13.